Hi, welcome to Analytics for All. This is our fifth lesson in our Python for Data Science course. This will take you everywhere from a very beginner all the way up to building your own machine learning models. This lesson, we're going to get into lists and dictionaries. These are more advanced data structures used in Python, which is important because that's what we're studying is data. Now, as with all my lessons, I have a write-up on my website here, analyticsforall.org. I'll put a link to this down in the description, but let's just start by hopping over to our Jupyter notebook here. And let me zoom in for you. All right. So let's start here. We all know about variables so far. So I can take a letter and assign it a value. And there it is, 6. Now keep in mind variables have to either start with a letter or they can start with an underscore. You know, can't start with a number. All right, now what happens when I do this now? When I assign it, if I say A is now 7. Well, unfortunately it overwrites it. So I've lost my 6. I can't keep it. A variable can only hold one value at a time. So that's where things like list and dictionaries come in. They allow us to hold more values. I want to take a quick second and discuss the type of values we hold in Python, though. I don't know if I went over this, but there's some basic data types that you're going to find, especially in data science, used a lot. And those would be integer, float, string, and boolean. And an integer is a whole number, a number with no decimal point behind it. And you can see I got this command here, type A. It's going to print out what type of data I've got here. So I do this, it comes back as integer. Now if I go to 6.6, that's now a float. A float has a decimal behind it. So there's float. And if I wrap these in quotes, this now becomes, if I can get it to work correctly, quote, and this becomes a string. That's what the str stands for. And a string can also be letters like a name or anything you want. And then finally, there's Boolean. Now, Boolean in Python is true or false. Keep in mind in Python, you have to capitalize the first letter. That's what Boolean comes back as. So these are just, I want you to keep in mind, these are the three probably most common single data types you're going to deal with. Notice date's not on the list because date is not a native data type to Python. It comes in a module, and I'll show you how to import modules later in lessons. All right, so now let's talk about the next type of data, not data type, but data structure we're going to be working with. Instead of just a plain variable, we're going to make a list. You instantiate a list with square brackets. And when you do that, you'll notice if I go to type, now I know I have a list. Well, what is a list? A list, as you can see here, is a series of values. And I can hold all 4 of them. And I can call these values by their index. Now, I don't know if you've watched the formatting, print format. I went over the fact that Python is a 0 index system, meaning 0 is the first one. So the first value is 0. So that makes 2 would actually be 0, 1, 2, the third value in the list. And that makes 4 completely out of range, list out of range, because there is no 4. If you count, it's 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, the list has 4 elements, but it starts at 0. Okay, let's keep going on here. List can also use, list can also have strings. They can even be mixed. See, I've got Bob, a float, and a Sally. Here they are, Bob, Sally, float. Okay, so you can mix. Good thing about lists, they don't care. They don't have to be a singular structure. We can work with the list later. You can add some features. Got here, notice if I want to add something to the list, I have this thing called append, dot append, and I use standard parentheses here, not the square brackets. Anytime you see a dot followed by a function, especially when you see parentheses, this is called a method, and I'll get into that later, but just so you know, these are called methods. So if I go here to F, which is my list, and I append Fred, and then I run the list, now Fred's at the end of the list. Another method we have is pop. Pop takes the last name off the list. Boom. Well, what if I don't want to remove the last name? What if I want to remove Bob? I want to take the first name off the list. I can remove by name. Okay? Let's keep going. Now we've got, if I want, I can also remove by their index. So I can delete the index, and that should take out the first one right there. It did. Now it's up to Sally. And clear, finally, dot clear just wipes out the entire. You don't need to give it a value. Just close the parentheses around there. Okay. The next thing we're going to look at is dictionaries. Dictionaries are, think of a dictionary as a list with values, with columns. So here I've got, in this, so you're clear, I know some screens are small. These are the curly brackets. So these would actually be above your square brackets on your keyboard. And what I do here is think about like columns, like in an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to have name, Ford, or make is Ford, model is Mustang, year is, and then I have a string. And I've got a colon separating, and then commas separating each value. So that's the structure here. So the the title or label you want for it, and then the actual value, label, value. And if you print this out, you can see I can print by the value. I can say I want the model, I want the make, and I want the year. You know. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to work with lists and dictionaries a bit more. I just want to kind of introduce you to the idea that you can store multiple values in one area. Okay. Again, at my website, analyticsforall.org, you can go there and check out the write-up I've got on there. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff on there, as you can see, machine learning, blockchain, everything all in here. If you like this video, click the like, hit subscribe, and go ahead, leave me a note down below. Let me know if you what you'd like me to work on next. All right, thank you very much. This is Analytics for All.